Hello, and welcome back to the DebateGate Sports Podcast. Today, we are definitely not doing a very late episode of NHL playoff predictions. The series have not already started. Currently, we are filming this in the intermission of the first period of the St. Louis Blues versus Colorado Avalanche first game. But Gavin and I swear none of our opinions have changed at all because of the first.
If you're in Canada, the games haven't started yet, so this is a pure and authentic North Division predictions.
Yes, and at least for me, I didn't really change any of my opinions, even though there's definitely one opinion that you guys will accuse me of changing. But if you go back and look at our other NHL videos, you can tell that I did not change any opinions. So let's just jump right into it. Thank you, Philip DeFranco. Let's go into it, starting off with the East. We're going to go with the division, the series that's already played the most games in the NHL, which is the Bruins versus Capitals series, which is now tied at 1-1 after Brad Marchand led the Bruins to winning that game in overtime, 4-3 over the Capitals, and the Capitals won the first game 3-2, so they split it for the Capitals at home. Gavin, who do you have winning this series? And why?
I have the Bruins, and it's a bit of a recency bias, I'm going to be honest. First of all, I'd just like to say, people, I know hockey again. We've been on a 3-month grind of watching a lot of hockey, so now I'm pretty educated, I'd like to say. But back on topic, I got the Bruins. And I think really the biggest factor here is Taylor Hall and his how he's resurged his offense, which we saw in the regular season, really had a lot of inconsistencies, whether it was goal scoring. Well, it was only goal scoring. They were just very inconsistent scoring the puck. They would just have way too many games. There would be 1 goal, 2 goals, and you just cannot have that in the playoff hockey. Having an elite goal scorer in Taylor Hall just really was huge for them. Just having another option along the core of Marchand, Pastrnak, and those guys. So the addition of Taylor Hall really with the East was close already, and the addition of Taylor Hall is just going to push the Bruins slightly over the top. Although I do think the Capitals are really, really good. Got Backstrom, Oshie, and Ovechkin, of course. But the biggest thing that I am afraid of with Washington is how will the young goalies do in the playoffs? You got Samsonov, you got Vanacek. Both of them are under 25. For me, I just don't really trust that. Of course, if you've been paying attention, Craig Anderson is in net, but he's not really sharp. So I just don't really trust the goaltenders enough for Washington as well as their depth scoring. So Taylor Hall's addition really is what pushes the Bruins over the top for me.
Yeah, definitely. I also agree with that because I always thought I actually perfectly agree with everything, so I'm not really going to talk long here, is that I thought Boston, their major thing was they didn't really have any scoring outside of like Pastrnak and Marchand, which really was an issue because Pastrnak really wasn't scoring at the rate he was in 2018, 19, and 2020. Not 2020 because this is 2020, but he wasn't really scoring at Pastrnak rate, so they were really struggling there for a while. But Taylor Hall's just absolutely blown it up. He's been so good ever since he's been paired on a line with David Krejci, which I love that combo. They're both pass first guys, so sometimes that kind of comes into an issue, but it's fine most of the time because, I mean, it's like, how often is honestly you're going to pass it way too much? That's not too often. And the backline defense of the back end defense of Washington is what doesn't scare me because I think they have good depth, but it's just like it's not great. It's not good enough to make up for, once again, this is a little bit not a little bit, but it is a little bit of recency bias is kind of the fact, and this is kind of true. Or this already goes against, sorry about what I said, where like I'm not going to go on recency bias or like what already happened. Well, I mean, Vita Vanacek got hurt and Craig Anderson got a second straight start. And I think Samsonov is on the injured list because I didn't see him play tonight or last night, I don't think. So I know, not last night. What is it?
Samsonov has COVID. Samsonov and Kuznetsov both have COVID.
Exactly. So you're missing Kuznetsov, who's arguably been your third best player on this team. Some would say second. I'd say Backstrom's just had a great year, so I'd go with Backstrom. But anyways, I forgot John Carlson exists. But he has COVID, so he's going to be missing probably the majority of this series. series. And then Vita Vanacek hurt himself on Saturday. So I don't really trust the defense isn't good enough, right? Because where if we had Carolina's defense, I'd trust their defense because it's godlike and there's probably an all-stars all the way down on the third and fourth pairing. That's how good they are. They go down to 4 pairings. So I don't really trust their goaltending. And like Evan said, I think Taylor Hall has just been the perfect spark that they needed. So I have Boston personally in 7 because based off of the 2 games so far, I mean, oh my God, this is going to be an amazing series. But I have Boston in 7.
Yeah, 100%. Their defense, they have that line one of Orlov and Carlson, I believe.
Yeah. Orlov.
But then after that, it's like Chara is the only guy that I can name. And if you're expecting 44-year-old Zdeno Chara to play good second line minutes, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't have the movement skills that he used to. I mean, he still has that amazing range and smarts, but like at this point in the NHL, it's not really helping.
Yeah, it's not really like that. You know, you have to have some sort of athleticism. But so we both have the Bruins for this series. On the other side of the East, we got the Penguins versus the Islanders. And Josh, I think you have something a little interesting for this series.
Yeah, this is where people are going to blame me for like, you know, just basing off the games that just happened. I have New York winning this series in 7. Do I have most series going to 7? Yes, because these are all really, really good teams. I don't think besides Montreal, there's not really a shit team in the playoffs, in my opinion. Maybe St. Louis, you can argue, but I think if St. Louis is on their game, they're not like a crappy team. Where Montreal, maybe I'm a little bit biased because fuck you, Canada. Anyways. Yeah, I have the Islanders winning 7 just because Varlamov is GOAT. Like Varlamov has been so underrated. This man, I think, is 3rd in save percentage and 6th in off the top of the dome, 6th in goals against average. So he's playing insane, as well as shown by Kyle Palmieri scoring 2 goals. They're right at the end of the season. Those last few games, Palmieri and Zajac, I want to say. His name is the 2 guys they got from New Jersey who, you know, not really stepped it up a ton, but were actually starting to become a part of the Islanders offense, as well as I think if the Islanders can play their game, they could really seriously, I'm not joking, contend for a cup. If they are able to control the pace and control the game and have it go their way, they can contend for a cup. And I think against Pittsburgh, I think they're going to be able to, because Varlamov is going to be able to fend off, you know, a lot of attacks that most other goaltenders won't allow. And Tristan Jarry is a little bit too inconsistent for me, especially in the playoffs. He hasn't shown yet that he can be a consistent number 1 goaltender in the playoffs. And that scares me a little bit, especially when you have Varlamov, who has shown that many times in the playoffs before and is having his best season of his career this year. So I love the Islanders here, and I think that they're going to win. I do think it'll be tight. I won't be surprised if Pittsburgh's win. I really do think Pittsburgh is a great, great team, but I think New York, I think they'll be able to control the series and then end up winning it.
So for a while, I was really, really high on the Islanders. I always just kind of loved the way that they would just kind of grind teams. And if you guys watched The Hockey Guy, he did this cool little analysis where he's like, as he watches all the games, he's like, the Islanders games always seem to finish 20 minutes before all the other games that start at the same time, just because everything is just, they don't have a lot of stop times. They don't get many power plays. They don't go to the box really a lot. They just like to play controlled defense and just run the other team out of the gym, just run and gun. But the more I've looked at this, the more I like the Penguins. And here's this really interesting stat that I found. So the Pittsburgh Penguins 5-on-5 performance when Crosby and Malkin are not on the ice. Every single year from 2007 all the way to 2020, the goal differential has usually been like no higher than 2, and it's gotten as low as -18. This year, the goal differential is +18 when Malkin and Crosby are not on the ice. The depth has been there like it's never before for Pittsburgh. So we're talking really good minutes from Jeff Carter, who's been an insane addition for them, Kasperi Kapanen, Jared McCann. All these guys have gotten like career high production, and it's really helped the Penguins. And so it's taking a load off of Crosby and Malkin. So having this unseen depth before is the reason that I'm picking Pittsburgh over the Islanders. While I am high on the Islanders, I feel like the only way that they can win is controlling the game. When they have control of the game, they're like pretty much unstoppable. But in game one, it was 4-3. The Islanders won. They got. I blame that loss on Tristan Jarry. He let in a few that he probably should not have let in. But I will say the Islanders did not have Varlamov, who's been like Vezina level. They had to start rookie Ilya Sorokin. But I don't know. I just don't trust the Islanders to really play their game and knock the Penguins off for 4 games. So that's why I'm taking Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and just a point for Pittsburgh is that because I gotta counter myself all the time because skilled at this job, is that every single team that has traded for Jeff Carter at the deadline has won the Stanley Cup in the same season. Now, that's one team in the Los Angeles Kings, and I think they were a much better team than the current Pittsburgh Penguins, as well as I think their goaltending was a little bit better, because prime Jonathan Quick and Tristan Jarry, I don't really know if that really compares. But nonetheless, it's a fact. So let's move on to our choices of the next round. So what we're doing is we're going each division, getting our division winner, and then we're going to go to the Final Four and Cup. But so let's move on to our next rounds, which I have Boston versus New York, and you have Washington. Or no, you also have Boston.
Boston versus
Pittsburgh. So you have the as their fans like to call it, the black and gold combination, even though it's just black and yellow. I hate teams that call yellow gold. Against each other, and I have just 2 teams that are playing each other. So go ahead with which black and gold team quotes is gonna win.
We're shipping up to Boston. I got the Bruins. I really do have the Bruins. I think they're gonna ride this momentum, and since the Capital Series is gonna be an extremely emotional series, with the whole Tom Wilson, Brandon Carlo drama. So if they can survive the Capitals, I think they can make a deep run. As well as that, I didn't hint on this in the Islanders series, but I don't like Tristan Jarry. Only a .909 save percentage, which was 17th best in the league, and a 2.75 goals allowed, which was 19th best in the league. I don't trust that. I'm going to be honest with you. And watching him in the Islanders game, he let in a few that were just, you can't let those in if you want to win a game. Just two where it wasn't like a prime scoring chance and you expect him to make the save and it just gets by him and gets through him, and you just can't have that. So that, me not trusting Tristan Jarry enough, as well as I already mentioned the Bruins' resurgence in consistent goal scoring. I think it's going to be close, but I think the Bruins are going to pull through, especially riding the momentum if they beat Washington. Who plus this East division has been so close anyways that Boston was only a few games out of first place anyways. Let's see. The Penguins had 77 points. Boston had 73. So it's a lot closer than it may appear. So I have Boston advancing to the Final Four.
Now, this is one where I'm going to have to consult NHL's Instagram. Alrighty. Sorry, I had to look up the season series between the two, and they played 7 games between each other. And, of course, the split was 4-3 in favor of New York. But New York won the first 4. Boston won the last 3. And based on that information, and based on the fact that it's still fucking Tuukka Rask, I haven't heard anyone talk about Tuukka Rask at all, being a benefit for Boston. And it's I feel like the only reason they weren't contending for the cup last year was because they didn't have Tuukka Rask. So now that they have Tuukka Rask and they're basically the same team, they should be contending.
Taylor Hall.
And Taylor Hall.
Add Taylor Hall, but you lose Torrey Krug.
Yeah, you just add Taylor Hall. You itsy little ad. But based off the price they gave him, yeah. Anyways, I think because they've won 3 straight and it's Tuukka Rask has the playoff experience, and I just feel like New York won't be able to really control the series because of Boston's ability to go physical or non-physical. I think that's one of the most underrated strengths of Boston. That's the thing about the NHL playoffs is that that really style matters a lot. Style matters a lot more than people think in this versus any other playoffs. Like if a team's able to, beat the shit out of someone and then also skate past them like the Hawks could in their prime dynasty, same with the Kings. Where you can either, if you want to, blow for blow game, a 1-0 grinded out game, or you want to go a 6-5 game, they could do both. And I feel like Boston can, especially with the addition of Taylor Hall. So I like that versatility where, as I said, New York, they can't. If they don't play their way, they're not going to win the game or the series. So I'm going to have to go with Boston on this one. So we both have Boston coming out of this division. Let's move on.
Wait. Before you say something, I'm always hearing this shit about how Tuukka Rask is washed, how Tuukka Rask needs to retire. First of all, he was injured, so there is a little bit of an asterisk next to these stats. But he went 15-5-2. Yes, only 22 starts. That's why there's an asterisk. But 15-5-2 is not bad. A .913 save percentage, 12th best. A 2.28 goals allowed, which is 5th best. I don't understand why people are sleeping on him because he had like a couple bad games that were buzzing around social media. Tuukka Rask is not washed. Tuukka Rask, he may retire soon, but he's still much better. Or he's still good enough to where the Bruins can beat the Islanders. So enough Tuukka Rask slander.
I'd like to say one thing and then show you one thing, Gavin, is that also this is the worst defense that Tuukka has played behind in a long time because they lost Torrey Krug and another guy I don't remember the name of, and Zdeno Chara. So they lost a lot of guys in the offseason. But also, I was looking at Instagram real quick. This is the first thing that came up. You read that? Tuukka Rask is good. So, yeah, stop it with the Tuukka slander. He's still really good. I know Boston fans, you're a petty little bunch. You're a bunch of little crybabies. And when the guy who just had a newborn baby would rather be with him than losing in the Stanley Cup playoffs, then because you guys didn't build a good enough team around him, then I don't really care. So go Tuukka in this situation only, because otherwise fuck Tuukka because I don't like them. Let's move on to the North Division. Because we went from the division that's had the most games played to the division with the least games played because you guys are fucked up over there in Canada. So I feel like this is honestly going to be a pretty easy selection for both of us, at least the first round. I have Maple Leafs over Canadians.
100%.
What do you have and why?
Yeah, I agree. Canadians. I don't think this is going to be close. I've seen a few things where they're like, oh, the Canadians just need to shut down Marner and Matthews, and then they can win this game. I'm like, yeah, but you're asking to shut down Marner and Matthews.
That's not an easy task.
Let's just casually shut down 2 top 10 players in the league. But yeah, I don't think that the Canadians really have a shot here. Like, they're honestly, like, are they much better than the Blackhawks? I don't think so. They're 24, 21, and 11, 59 points. They're just kind of average in every single stat in terms of, like, except for generating shots. But, like, their power play and penalty kill aren't good. Worse than the Maple Leafs. So, and plus they have the goalie battle between Jake Allen and Carey Price, where neither of them have really been great. Price has been a little bit better, but not by much. And so I'm interested to see how they work that out, but I don't think Montreal has a shot. I think this is pretty easy that we're going to say both Toronto.
Yeah, I think Toronto is pretty much the clear one because still, as per tradition during the Carey Price era, you don't have enough forward talent. I mean, you have Tyler Toffoli, which really changed the game at the beginning of the season. But ever since then, they don't have another guy with more than 18 goals or they have one guy with 17 plus where Toronto has 4. So and then they added depth with like a Nick Foligno. So they added depth, and I do really like their team. And the only issue between the two is if Carey Price is Carey Price. If Carey Price is Carey Price, then obvious this is going to be a much more competitive series than both of us think. But right now, Carey Price is carrying a 264 goals against average and 901 save percentage. He's holding on to a plus 900. They did add Eric Gustafson at the trade deadline, which was a good pickup because I'm a big fan of Gustafson as he was a Hawk a while ago. They did pick up Eric Stahl, but he's really done nothing. And his plus minus is fucking shit in 21 games. He has a minus 10. I don't know how a man can be so bad at plus minus. And their second leading scorer is Jeff Petrie, who's a defenseman. Now, Jeff Petrie's having a great season, but that's not what you want. You don't want your second leading scorer to be a defenseman, especially when you're going up against a team that is so offensively talented like the Toronto Maple Leafs, where every single one of their defensemen is also really good offensively. So you also have great offensive forwards, and you have great offensive defensemen. And then the question for here is that right now, both your backup goaltenders, currently their backups, in Freddie Anderson and David Rittich, are both carrying sub 900 save percentages. Jake Allen's doing real good with a 215 goals against and a 921 save percentage. But here's the thing. Can he keep that up? He's never shown that he can keep it up in the playoffs or for really a long stretch of time. And he's been doing it so far through 22 games, which isn't the biggest sample size. And he started off, I think, what was it, 11-0 or 12-0? So
Campbell
Campbell.
Campbell had 12 wins in a row. Yeah.
12. Okay. So he's been really good. And now for me, the question is, if Carey Price is Carey Price, then I think the Canadians have a shot. If they don't, it's a 5-game series, 4 or 5-game series if Carey Price is not the, MVP Carey Price. So otherwise they don't really have a shot, which I think Gavin agrees with, being a 4 or 5-game series.
Yeah, just taking a look at one more thing. Like, we can go into all these analytics and depth and positioning and whatever. Top 3 scorers for Toronto: 67 points, Mitch Marner; 66 points, Austin Matthews; 50, John Tavares. The top 3 scorers for Montreal: 44 points for Tyler Toffoli, 42 points for Jeff Petrie, and 41 points for Nick Suzuki. So the third place guy on Toronto has 6 more than the first place guy. At the end of the day, it just comes down to Montreal's just not very good, and Toronto is. So I think it's going to be a fight. I think it's going to be a sweep. I think it's going to be a sweep.
Ooh, hot take. Sweep. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I'm just going to say Carey Price, no matter what, steals a game.
See, I don't know, because I've heard rumors that he's disgruntled with how Jake Allen's had more starts than him. But yeah, I don't know. We shall see.
Injured in the ass. I hate when players are like that. It's like, then play better, right? If you're so mad for being benched, play better. I know it's Carey Price. I know he's being paid $10 million a year. I know he's one of the most feared goaltenders in the NHL, but play better. Come on, man. Especially with goaltending and the way it is, it's so weird. It's like Black Voodoo Magic. For example of Black Voodoo Magic goaltending, now that's a transition. Edmonton Oilers and Mike Smith. Wow.
Throwback. Who would have saw this coming? And he's been doing it silently.
Go back to nothing. This is his best season of his career.
I know, but the funny thing is that he's been doing it silently. Like, I've heard more people talk about Tuukka Rask than Mike Smith, and it's like, oh, he's casually top 7 in every important goalie stat.
You know what's so stupid? I was pulling up the points and the stats for each team, and then I just look, and it's just like Connor McDavid, 105. You're just like, what the fuck is this bullshit?
I know.
How is this even work?
It goes from 105, McDavid, 84, Leon Draisaitl, and then to Tyson Barrie at 48.
Yikes.
I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But you mentioned, I don't remember which player. How can somebody have such an ass plus minus? What a great transition. If you can't tell, we're talking about the Oilers versus the Jets. Blake Wheeler's
minus 17.
Minus 17.
But I mean, that's in 50 games. Where Eric Stahl was minus 10 and 21.
Still, minus 17 is the worst in the league. I did see that.
So bad.
And he's supposed to be I believe he's on line 1 now. Now that Nikolaj Ehlers and Andrew Copp are both out, which is very concerning. And the Jets, they're my second favorite team, but my oh my, are they playing bad? Shout out to Urinating Tree. I watched their Hater's Guide to the 2021 Playoffs. Greatest quote I've ever seen. Connor Hellebuyck either breaks down or gets hit with enough pucks and then breaks down.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's like,
Oh my gosh.
I
So
want to
fact.
like Connor Hellebuyck, but I feel like he either A, steals a game and allows one goal on 40 shots, B, does not comes close to stealing a game but ends up letting in like 4 or 5 goals on 40 shots, or B, lets in 4 or 5 goals on 20 shots. So the Jets are like the worst defensive team in the league, or they're pretty close. Their forwards are just abysmal. They can score, but their forwards are just abysmal. But I think we're really just banking on them stopping McDavid and Draisaitl, which is just you can't stop them. You can only hope to slow them down. And you're just praying that Jets fans are just praying that Hellebuyck just decides to become a Vezina and just hope that he allows 1 goal on 40 shots and has enough of those games. And Scheifele, Connor, and Wheeler and Dubois can score enough, outscore Edmonton, which is not going to be easy to do. So there's just so many things going wrong for the Jets. I think I've already mentioned that they're awful play down the stretch. I don't know what their record is since like the start of April, but it's not.
I don't know exactly either, but it's got to be like well below.
I think they were like 2-10, like at one point. They had like a stretch where they were 2-10. But so everything's kind of gone wrong for the Jets at the worst time. I don't think it's going to be that close. I think the Oilers could win this in 5 or 6.
Yeah, I honestly think 5. Alrighty. So the Jets. I don't remember where Gavin left off. But the Jets. Yeah. Okay. About how bad they've been. They won 2 straight going in the playoffs, but they're still 3-7 in their last 10, which meant they were 1-9 before the last 2 games. So, yeah, not good. And then before that, they've been so bad. Probably 10 games below 500. They've been insanely bad, and just nothing has been working. You don't have, the great offense that you should be having. Also, as Gavin said, Nikolai Gira, your 3rd leading scorer, and Kopp, your 5th leading scorer, are both out. And it's not like your defense can recover because you have no defense. So I think Hellebuyck steals the game because it's Hellebuyck. Whenever you have a goaltender that's that good, you're going to steal a game. It's guaranteed. So that's why I think the Montreal series is going to go to 5. I think this one's going to go to 5. Because Oilers, I mean, you're not really going to be able to really attack their depth whenever you don't have scoring that's really been on, especially if you're missing 2 of your top 5 leading scorers. You're not going to be able to attack their lack of depth anywhere, forwards or defense, but that's just been like a typical issue for the Oilers for the past however long Connor McDavid's been in Edmonton. So now you actually have a solid goaltender who's been playing real well in Mike Smith with a 9.23 and 2.31. So just been so good, and I think they're easily going to win this series like Evan does 2 and 5. So let's move on to the next competition, which we both have, Toronto versus Edmonton, where I think this is going to be really interesting. And I had a hot take at first, but I think I'm taking it back.
He's going to Toronto?
I'm going with Toronto. I had Edmonton for a little bit, but I mean, just scrolling through their fucking point leaders. I mean, after Puyujarvi, I mean, who? Sorry, Alex Chassian? Who?
Yeah, we're going back to Urinating Tree. Urinating Tree says petition to turn off line changes.
Yeah.
Why should you when you have 105-point Connor McDavid and 84-point Leon Draisaitl? But
honestly, if you have Draisaitl, McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Tyson Barrie, and Darnell Nurse with Mike Smith, I mean, that team can win a cup. But then you just go beyond that, and you're like, who?
Yeah, it's like they honestly kind of remind me of the Lakers in a sense, where you have like 2 all-stars, like 2 like first-team All-NBA stars, and then you end up signing Dion Waiters and J.R. Smith just to fill your roster spots. So it's kind of like that for the Oilers, but it's different in the NHL. I don't think they're gonna. It's not like the NBA where it's just like a complete money-based league. I don't think the Oilers.
Besides the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, true. But I think the Maple Leafs are going to win this. Just because the goalie depth, I think some people look at it as a minus, but I honestly see it as a plus because you're not necessarily just banking on Jack Campbell. Frederik Andersen's numbers are low, but he's also been hurt. So you can always use him as a backup. And then you also have Michael Hutchinson and David Riddick. So you have plenty of options, which I always see as a good thing. And then the moves that they've made at the end, I should say. The big one is picking up Nick Foligno, and William Nylander's played pretty good as well, just to help out the big three of Tavares, Matthews, and Marner. I'm going to go Toronto. I think unless Toronto does some Toronto stuff, I think they're going to make it to the Final Four.
That's the issue. It's Toronto. I mean, even as not big fans of, we can both be honest. We took a little bit of a not hiatus, but I mean, I didn't pay attention to the East as much whenever the Hawks were kind of starting to suck ass. I was more like, okay, can we try and make it in the playoffs and focusing on teams in our division? I wasn't really focusing on the East as much. I was still focusing on the Blackhawks, but so I mean, we don't know as much as well as we're not around long enough to experience the absolute dreadful history of the Toronto Maple Leafs, which I consider to be basically the Chicago Bears of the NHL, where they're, consistently awful. They have like one miraculous season out of nowhere all the time, show a lot of promise, and then nothing comes of it, and they haven't won a championship in a long ass time. So it just so happens that the Bears super team in the 80s were able to win a championship, where the Leafs super teams in the 80s with like Matt Sundin and that kind of thing were not able to win, and Curtis Joseph were not able to win. So I consider them the Bears. And as we know from the Bears, a double doink happened the last time they had a miraculous season. Now this is Toronto's miraculous season. Let's see if they can double doink it, and they probably will, but I'm still going to go with them because they have hot take. They have, if you combine their top four of Tavares, Nylander, Matthews, and Marner, it's equal to the output of the top two.
Draisaitl and McDavid.
Yeah, Draisaitl and McDavid. And then you look at everybody else, and it's so much more depth. So it's like you take that top four, even you're taking 4 versus 2, and you still got a ton more depth of people that I recognize. I recognize the name of them. They're good hockey players. So that's really the benefit for them. And then I think as good as Mike Smith's been, I personally trust Jack Campbell more. I know Mike Smith's had a much bigger sample size, but still Mike Smith has also had a much bigger sample size of failing. So he's been great this season, but I trust Jack Campbell in a playoff position, especially with the defense in front of him, is so much better, where Edmonton really has one good defensive defenseman in Darnell Nurse, and that's kind of it.
There is one thing that I need to look at, and I'm going to play the devil's advocate here, even though I have Toronto. One big thing to look at is the power play percentage and the penalty kill percentage. The Oilers have the best power play percentage. They somehow passed the Hurricanes, but that's possible. 27.6%. And then they have an 82.5% penalty kill percent, which is 9th best, which is a total of 110.1%. Newer hockey fans, it's important that you want to try and get your power play plus penalty kill percentage above 100. Above 100 is good. But so they have 110%, whereas Toronto has a 20% power play percentage, which is 16th, and a 78.5% penalty kill percentage, which is 24th, a total of 98.5%. So unless the Oilers really, really, really take advantage on special teams, that's one way where I see them winning a bunch of games and beating Toronto. So special teams, watch for that in this series, especially. Assuming that it's going to happen. Like, we don't know for sure yet.
I think we can both.
We do
I think that's
sure.
the most. I think that's the most guaranteed. Besides,
we do know for sure.
Besides maybe Vegas and the Avs, which has kind of a preview of what's going on next. I mean, like both teams that are coming in that we have them losing are coming in cold. are coming in like not really doing too well, and then both the other teams are coming in kind of hot. So I mean, pretty obvious. So let's move on. Oh, we didn't. Yeah. So we both have Toronto. So right now we have Toronto versus Boston, which by the way, we both hope that's the Final Four series. I mean, that would be fucking
incredible.
sick. Toronto versus Boston to see if
I don't
Toronto.
think it would though, because the reseeding.
I don't know. I think.
Reseed it.
Yeah, I think the
Toronto
way that
would
would
be a
have
one
to
seed.
work. What?
Toronto wouldn't be a 1 seed, but Boston would automatically be the 4 seed unless like things happen.
Yeah, they can't, and then they can't be the 1 seed unless somehow Nashville's able to win. I think that's the only way. So,
Yeah.
well, unfortunate.
Well, anyways, continue.
Anyways, let's move on to speaking of Nashville. Wow, we are so good at these transitions. The Predators versus the Carolina. I think we're not really going to talk about this too long. I think I can sum it up in, I think 5 words. I don't know how to count though. Canes beat the shit. That's not 5 words, but beat the shit out of the Predators. The Predators are going to get killed. I mean, it showed in the first game, 5-2. I mean, we both hate the Predators. So, I mean, we both picked the Canes anyways, and I really like the Canes. So I really there's no other word. They're going to beat the shit out of them, and that's it. I'm done. I'm done talking. I'll talk more about them in the next series, but they're not losing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree here at all. I also think that the Canes are going to smoke the Predators. And while I do think the Predators could be a potential, there's a small chance that the Predators could sneak up on the Hurricanes and cause some trouble. I don't think it's going to happen. Carolina is too good on special teams. They have a top 3 defense and terrific scoring depth. And also, why is nobody talking about Alex Nedeljkovic? Another asterisk here, only 23 starts, but 15-5-3, a .932 save percentage, which is the best amongst all goalies with more than 23 starts, and a 1.90 goals allowed first. What's that? Oh, yeah, they're getting Peter Mrazek back. Well, they got him back as of recent. And they have James Reimer. So, as their 3rd string. So, this team is just absolutely complete. And spoiler alert, I think they're going to win the cup. The scoring. Some people complain about the scoring depth. I think it's one of their best strengths. Aho, Trocheck, Shvenigov, Niederreiter. What's that? They're getting Teuvo Teravainen back, and he scored in tonight's game. And the top 3 defense as well, with Slavin and Hamilton and Pesce as well. So this team is flawless in my opinion. And the Predators, they're extremely flawed. Their penalty kill is historically terrible, and their power play percentage is also pretty ass. Unless UC Saros continues his Vezina campaign that he's been on, his revenge tour that he's been on since April, there's no way that Nashville's gonna beat the Hurricanes, in my opinion. If this is just a bad matchup for them, so I'm taking Hurricanes in 5 or 6.
Yeah, I just want to mention I'll go into Hurricanes later. I'll go more into the Hurricanes later. I just want to say a quick thing about Philip Forsberg. God, I wish I could love him. I mean, that mustache is amazing. Why do you have to play for the Nashville Predators? I would absolutely love him just for his mustache, because that's such a thing I would do, as Gavin would know. So let's move on to quite possibly one of the greatest games I've ever seen in NHL history in the Tampa Bay Lightning versus Florida Panthers series. And this is going to be one of the greatest series in NHL history of my remembrance. I mean, holy shit, was Sunday entertaining, right? Sunday.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Oh my God, so much fun. I think I'm very nervous about Aaron Ekblad's injury, but I've been talking a little bit too much consistently and starting it off, so I'm going to let Gavin actually start it, even though I already said it.
Okay. Well, I agree. I think this could be the best series all time. 7 games, 100%, no question.
No question.
Let's take a look into these 2 teams. Florida, they love to play fast, force turnovers, get a lot of shots. They lead the league in shots per game, which is 34.9. And they're fourth in the league in goals per game. So clearly, take a lot of shots, you get a lot of goals. Florida, I really like them, honestly. They got good goalie depth and Bobrovsky, who was their starter, and he looked really sharp on Sunday. And they also have Chris Driedger, who has also been great for them. He's honestly been better stats wise than Bobrovsky. So if Florida can control the pace and force turnovers on the Lightning, who we'll get into them later, but they added two more important pieces. I think Florida can win the game, win enough games to win. Their top three scorers are Jonathan Huberdeau, 61 points, Alexander Barkov, 58 points, and Carter Verhaeghe, 36 points. They also have Duclair, Sam Bennett. Those guys were key in the Sunday game as well. So Florida, I love them. They're very fun to watch. On to Tampa Bay. Their biggest story of the playoffs, in my opinion, Nikita Kucherov coming back after a year of hip surgery, after his extremely horrible injury. Extremely horrible. I'm sure he was. Okay, what I'm trying to say is there's been plenty. After he scored 2 goals in Sunday's win in the game, people are saying that he was healthy a long time ago. But I could just be salty. But Stamkos is back as well, so the star power and the depth has been huge. Amongst those two studs, they got Braden Point, Andre Palat, Alex Killorn, Victor Hedman, who's is one of the best defenders in the league as well. They have Andre Vasilevsky, who's my pick to win the Vezina. So another complete team all around. I think both of these teams can really compete for the cup. I think they're like top 8 teams in the league, in my opinion. So I think this is going to be one of the all-time great series. I've been talking for way too long now, so Josh, the floor is yours.
I mean, you're so right. This is an all-time great series, and it just sucks that both these teams have to go through Carolina. I mean, the East this year, if, like, let's say we went back to East versus West, I mean, that's insane. You have all 4 teams from the East Division. Then you have the three Central teams who are in the East with Florida, Tampa, and Carolina. And then you also have Toronto. That's who's making the playoffs in the East.
It's absolutely insane.
Insane. I mean,
it sucks as a Blackhawks fan that we have to watch this every other night. But
yeah, I know exactly right. That's the reason. I think people have been sleeping on how good the Central is because all I've heard is East is so good. But like the top 3 teams in the top 3 teams in the
Central
are in my opinion 3 of the top 5. I think it goes.
Agreed. I think it would go 1 Carolina.
I think it's the Avs and the Golden Knights that ruin the top 3.
Exactly. I would say 1 Carolina, 2 Vegas, 3 Colorado, 4 Tampa, 5 Florida.
Exactly. I'd have Tampa and Florida switch, which is a spoiler for my series. I have Florida winning. Why? Because I really want Florida to win. And as Gavin said, the biggest story of the playoffs, I think, not only are they the biggest story of the playoffs because of the guys they got back, but also their salary cap situation. They're $17 million over the cap, which is not legal. It's a very weird situation. I don't know all the details. I don't know all the facts. I don't know how it all works. I haven't read every rule. But in my opinion, a team should not be able to play over the cap. So, Tampa, that's illegal. That's illegal. But I feel like Aaron Ekblad would make this an easy 7 games if that's a thing for Florida. But I still think they're going to win just because I want them to. I really want them to. I think they're even on everything. I think defensively they're even. I think Tampa's a little bit better. I think Vasilevsky's way better, but I think Bobrovsky's just so hot in the playoffs and he's been so good. I mean, like over half the goals that they scored, you couldn't really blame on Bobrovsky. That wasn't really his fault. And then the backup, so like if Bobrovsky needs a night off and Driedger goes in, then I have a fear of, especially with how physical this series is and how Florida plays, where they're peppering 40 shots a night, and at how many games are going into OT, which could go into the 50s. I mean, Vasilevsky's going to get tired out, and you can't put McElhinney in there.
That's what I was just about to say for when we get
he's going to get worn out eventually, so you just can't put McElhinney in there, and that's going to be the issue, is that if Vasilevsky can stand on his head. So, I really like the Florida team. I think, honestly, forwards, I would honestly give the edge to Florida over Tampa because I just like Huberdeau, Duclair, and Barkov so much. I think they're all so good. And I just think that, yes, Kucherov did score 2 goals in his opener, but granted, both of them were cross-crease passes where the defense didn't really realize, oh, God, we should maybe cover the other guy that's on the other side of the ice and not leave Bobrovsky wide open for him to make a sliding cross-crease save where, of course, because he's Kucherov, he could put it up in the top of the net. I still haven't seen him as Kuch. He has scored 2 goals. Yes, he's been pretty good, but, he's still coming back. That's his first game back. He's on fresh legs. But, he hasn't had the cardio to really come back fully. So, by the end of this series, don't be surprised if Kucherov is not really playing that much because we both know this is going to go to 7 games. This has to go to 7 games. It'd be a crime if it doesn't go to 7 games. So, I just don't be surprised if Stamkos and Kucherov fall off a bit, right? Because Stamkos did this last year. The first series he came back, he was pretty good for the first few games, but then he kind of fell off because he didn't have the stamina under him because he was injured. So I think the same thing will happen with Kuch and Stamkos again, and that's where I think Florida will be able to take advantage. And I just really want them to because I don't like Tampa that much, and I don't really want them to win, and I really want Florida to win, so I'm going to have Florida win. But let's move on.
Well, that was the longest way of saying that you pick Florida.
Wow, okay.
I'm going to go Tampa. I'm going to go Tampa for a few reasons. Number one, I think we're really underrating the fact that Stamkos and Kucherov are coming back. And I think you're crazy for saying that Kucherov coming back on fresh legs is a bad thing and that his cardio is not going to be there. His first game back, and he scored 2 goals.
Did you not just hear what I said?
Yes, I heard what you said.
Okay.
But it's not like he's out of touch or anything.
No.
This man's he's clearly back and ready to play. And if he is struggling with the cardio, it's not like they're immediately relying on him to be their number one producer. They can win games without them. He's coming back and making an immediate impact, even though they don't necessarily need him to be their number one producer, but he's playing like it. So that's here are my expectations for him coming back, and he's surpassing them. So I don't understand how that's necessarily a bad thing, but I still have Tampa winning simply just because of that. And I feel like Vasilevsky will be fresh enough. I think Tampa's winning the goaltender battle, even if Drieger comes in for a few games. It's going to 7, 100%. But I just feel like Vasilevsky will make those key plays, as well as Stamkos and Kucherov. Having them come back is just going to make an astronomical difference that we're not really taking into consideration. So with that, I have Tampa in 7.
That's the longest way to say I have Tampa in 7 after already explaining.
This is absolutely hilarious.
Way back.
Let's. You have Carolina versus Florida. I have Carolina versus Tampa. I'll let you start.
That's the issue with Tampa and Florida is that neither of them are Carolina. Now I'm going to get into Carolina. One flaw and one flaw only, and this may be the dumbest flaw a team I've ever had. They don't have superstar goal scoring. They don't have a superstar. Simple. They don't have a superstar. When people say depth, I don't understand it. You have Aho, Niederreiter, Trocheck, Stahl, Svechnikov, Nikas, and Teravainen, and McGinn's been pretty good. And what? How are you they don't really have depth on offense. They have all the depths in the world.
It's actually the opposite. They don't have one guy to go to.
Exactly. They don't have that go-to guy. Svechnikov has not really been amazing this year as he was last year. He's not as good, and Aho's been really good, but I know I'm saying just a point per game pace, but based on everything that's been going on this year, a point per game pace is like a top 20 player, maybe. So they don't have that top 10 guy that every other team in the playoff really has, right? Because you have Matthews, all the good teams, right? You have Matthews, McDavid, Crosby, Barzal, Marchand, and I could go on and on and on, Kucherov or Braden Point this year has been playing really, really good. Vasilevsky, all that kind of stuff. I can go over that. Huberdeau, everything. But they don't have that guy. They don't have a guy, and that's their only issue. And that's not a bad issue, especially in the playoffs where typically the guy who wins the Conn Smythe isn't the best player on the team, right? Because David Perron still was really, really good for St. Louis in 2019 if he was on their team, I think. But like this year, for example, he led them in points, but Ryan O'Reilly will probably win the Conn Smythe if they win because he's more important and he shows up in the playoffs. So it's whoever shows up in the playoffs. And then if you go back to the Hawks, because that's who I know really well, right? Keith won it. He's not the best player on the team. Taves won it their first time. He's not the best player on the team. Kane is. Kane did win it one year, but Kane's not. Kane was. So it's not always the guy who's number one on your team. It's the guy who plays the best in the playoffs. And, any of those guys that I named between Aho, Nino, Ryan Trocheck, Stahl, Svechnikov, Nikas, all that kind of stuff can win it. So that's where I think it doesn't really matter. And then the defense, in my opinion, which is a little bit overrated, they have three guys who on separate teams could all, in my opinion, compete for a Norris Trophy in Dougie Hamilton, in Brent Pesce, and in Jacob Slavin. I think all personally can go for Norris at any single point. And then finally you have goaltending. You finally have goaltending with statistically over 15 starts, the best goalie in hockey. And then you also have a really hot goalie over 12 starts in Peter Mrazek. And then you have James Reimer, who's been not great, but he's been basically
their third string. He's their third string.
And he's been equivalent to Jake Allen, which everyone's being like, oh my God, what a great goaltender's Jake Allen been. Literally 0.02 difference between their save percentage and their goals against average. I'm not joking. 0.02. They're basically the same goaltender this year. And that's your third string versus your starter for Montreal. So, as I said, I'm going to have Carolina going to win the Central Division. I won't spoil it, but going to the Central Division for me for sure. Let's move on to the final division before we
Whoa. Can I talk about Carolina versus Tampa?
No, fuck you, bitch.
Oh, okay. We're getting a little nasty. Nasty.
Please don't say that. Please stop. By the way, tied 1-1 as we're recording this. End of the second. Tied 1-1 between St. Louis and Avalanche. But go ahead.
Interesting. So Carolina versus Tampa. Here's where I think Florida in the first round is really, really, really going to come back to bite Tampa. Number one, their play style. Tampa's. You better believe Tampa's going to have to run, and you better believe that they're going to be a little bit tired after winning a 7-game series against a run and gun team, then coming over, finding it. I think it's North Carolina. Are the Hurricanes in North Carolina?
Yeah, they're in Raleigh.
That's what I thought. Okay, I didn't want to make myself sound stupid. But then you're going to come flying into Raleigh and playing a buzzsaw on the Hurricanes if you're already gassed. And here's where I think the goaltender depth versus the opposite of goaltender depth is really going to come into play. Nedeljkovic, Reimer, Mrazek. Vasilevsky, he cannot take a night off. I mean, I'm just going to say it right now. He can't take a night off. You cannot put in Curtis McElhinney. He's just straight up not good. You can put him in there and they're going to lose. It's happened almost every time. Against the Hurricanes in playoff time, a fresh Hurricanes team, you cannot the Lightning will go as far as Vasilevsky will go. And you were saying like eventually Vasilevsky's going to need a night off. I think he can survive one series, but after 7 games of a team that leads the league in shots, he's going to eventually run out of gas. I think this is where he really starts to run out of gas. Additionally, the Hurricanes, you said that they have no star. And I agree with that. Their leading scorer is Sebastian Aho with 24 goals, which is Tampa's leading scorer is actually 23 goals. So there's that. But
then you'll love it when the stat like just goes against what you thought was true. And you're just like, well,
no,
okay.
we don't have to talk about that. But so interesting. But Carolina, they do a great job of playing like a team. I don't watch a ton of the Hurricanes, but when I watch them, they're always sharp passing. They play good team defense, and they have a lot of depth scoring. It's not running through one guy. They play like a team. Tampa, since they have these new guys back after I just talked a whole lot about how these new guys are going to be game-changing for them, I think it's going to cause a little bit of a problem when they're gassed and they're not fully on the same page.
Oh, I wonder who said that.
I wonder who. And so having these two new guys, throwing them into the mix, especially not necessarily Stamkos, but more so Kucherov, I think this is where it's going to come to bite them. Like I said, the Hurricanes are a buzzsaw. Give me the Hurricanes coming out of the Central.
I mean, just so dominant. Let's move on to the probably going to be the most boring besides the North, in my opinion, for the first round, and that is between the West.
The Avalanche,
the
West Blues.
We're going to start with the Avalanche with the Blues. By the way, already, I just am going to the Avalanche page. They scored again already, so they're already up 2-1. But I think we both have the Avs. I think we both love the Avs. I think this is another time where I'm going to talk about them later. So, in the second time. So, Avs going to win in 5 because Binnington's going to win 1.
I have Avalanche in 4 simply because Ryan O'Reilly said that he would guarantee that the Blues would win against the Avalanche. So.
Timeout. Shut the fuck up. Oh my God. It pisses me off so much to no end whenever people freak out about like, oh, look at Ryan O'Reilly, call it. He's going to be like, well, I mean, Colorado's a really good team. They have great depth, great scoring. I mean, the top 3 line's good, amazing. So good. I don't think we really have a chance. You think he's going to say, no, he's the captain of his own team. He believes in his guys. He's going to think he's going to win. All major media news outlets, shut up, stop talking about it. Of course he thinks they're going to win. Every player who's on their team thinks their team's going to win the cup. I guarantee you a Red Wings player and a Buffalo player was like, we're going to win the cup this year at the beginning of the year.
Here's what I got to say about that. We don't care. We don't care. No, just for the lulz, I'm picking Colorado to sweep. Number one concern with the Blues, I will say in their defense, they have had a lot of key guys injured. Tarasenko, Schwartz, both of those guys hurt. And I think like guys like Hoffman and Perron, I don't think they played the full season either, but it is what it is. Binnington. You locked up your guy, and he's playing like an average goalie. 18-14-8 record. Okay. 910 save percentage, 17th best, and a 1.65. Sorry, that's a 2.65 goals allowed, which is 16th. Not really what you want to see if you're going against a buzzsaw like the Avalanche. I mean, this 1-2 punch of Rantanen and McKinnon, both elite goal scorers. So you need Jordan Binnington to be sharp as a knife every single night, and he just hasn't really been that this season. So it's just adding fuel to the fire when I think the Avalanche will sweep. As well as, I don't even need to say this, Grubauer's been terrific. And the Avalanche are like top 5 in pretty much every statistical category. So, yeah, give me the Avalanche all the way.
Yes. Now for a series I was a little bit surprised about at the beginning because I thought this was going to be a kind of Blackhawks versus Nashville kind of vibe where it's going to be a very close series, but it's going to be a 4-game sweep. It's going to be a close series, but it was a 4-game sweep by Vegas, which obviously is not true anymore. At the minimum, it could be 5-game win by Vegas, but of course the Wild could sweep. No one thinks that, though. I don't really think anyone thinks that's possible. So, the Wild, they're just like a worse team. I mean, it's not really that hard of an explanation. They're just a worse team. I mean, Talbot has been playing like 2017 Talbot, which is awesome. Kapanen's a rookie and he's been playing not great. Like he started off real hot, but he hasn't really been playing like great since. And then I mean, a great season from Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty. I mean, both averaging over a point per game. And then you also have Jordan Marchessault, Shane Theodore, William Karlsson, Alex Tuck, Riley Smith, Alex Petrangelo, Alec Martinez. I mean, the list goes on and on. And they're such a good team. And Fleury, in my opinion, is the Vezina winner this year. I mean, he's the leader in goals against average of any guy who's scored over and on any goalie who's starred more than 25 games, and he's the second in save percentage in any person who started over 25 games, as well as he's been super good throughout his entire career. He's never won a Vezina. So I think it's awesome, and I think he should win a Vezina this year for his best year of his career. Anyways, that's a debate we'll have another time. You can rest him. And you're putting in a great goaltender. You can rest him and put him in a great goaltender in Robin Lehner. You're putting in my opinion, a top 10 goaltender when you rest Marc-Andre Fleury. Not really a bad setup, is it? So I just think they're just a better team. So, I mean, it's not that hard.
I'm going to agree with you here. We know it's not going to be a sweep anymore, but just checking to see if I was on mute. But the Golden Knights, we know about their defense. We know about how Marc-Andre Fleury could win the Vezina. He's got a great shot at winning the Vezina, and they're first in pretty much every good statistical defensive category. And just on the eye test, we see they're the best defensive team in the NHL.
Whoa. You actually think that?
I think so.
You think
best penalty kill, least goals against.
Wow. But least goals against because they have 2 top 10 goaltenders.
Whoa. Now we're making do you think Robin Lehner's top 10?
Not this season, but I think if you're including like the last 2 or 3, yes.
This is a debate for another time.
Like bottom top 10. He's like 9 or 10, but you got to admit he's up there.
Great goal scoring for the Vegas Golden Knights has been huge. Pacioretty, 24 goals, Mark Stone, 21 goals, and Marchessault with 18 goals. That's really, really huge. So you're not just banking on your defense. They've won multiple games with 4 or 5 goals. That's huge for the Golden Knights. It really makes them the complete team. And for the Wild, I just think they've overachieved, in my opinion. I mean, they're a well-coached team, and Kirill Kaprizov, he's done wonders for this team. But at the end of the day, it's just they're not up to Vegas. Vegas is a top 5 team, in my opinion. And Talbot's like good. He's actually better than I thought he was. He's like just outside the top 10 in goalies, in my opinion, even though on Sunday he played like it. But with the addition of Kaprizov, you just have guys like Victor Rask and Joel Eriksson Ek playing like a lot better than they probably should. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I just don't think it's going to carry them past the first round against a buzzsaw like Vegas. So those are our first round analyses.
Yeah, that's it for the first round. Let's move on to what I think will be either the best or second best series. What was I saying? Either the best or second best series for the entire NHL playoffs with Colorado versus Vegas, which we both have. Been a very entertaining season. They're split, I think, even on the season series. I might be wrong about that, but I think they're split even. And I have Colorado. I just think their top 3 are better than any other team's top 3. Listen to me, 3 in the entire NHL. If we're going top 2, obviously not. That's obvious. But top 3, the line of Rantanen, McKinnon, and Landeskog might be one of the best lines I've ever seen.
I thought you were going to say McCarr as like a big 3, but continue.
Yeah. They're each naturally playing their correct position, right? Because you could have 3 superstars on a team and play on a line, but like Draisaitl and McDavid are both centers. But Rantanen's a right winger, McKinnon's a center, and Landeskog's a left winger. I think that's how that works. I actually might be wrong. Between Landeskog and McKinnon, I always forget. But I know they're playing their correct positions. And then you just casually have Cale Makar in the back end, who's been really, really good. And then they also have great defenders besides that. I mean, their leader in plus minus right now for defensemen is Devon Tays, who has a 29 plus minus. I mean, that's insane. It's so good. So he's awesome. I love their team. I love their depth. I mean, when you have Brandon Saad, who's putting up 15 goals as your fourth liner, I mean, come on. Come on. This is stupid. And then the issue kind of faces the same thing that plagues what's their name? Tampa Bay. But they don't have to face a great opponent round one. And that's Philip Gubaro. After him, you really don't have anyone. Like Johannes, I think is how you pronounce it. Johannes.
Well, now they have Dubnyk as their backup, I believe.
Yeah, but Dubnyk's played less games and has been much worse.
Yeah,
so
I know.
But
he's also had COVID, so
yeah. Johannes, I think I'm gonna go with here. But anyways, either way, not good. Either way, not good goaltending behind him. So that's the good thing for Colorado, and that's why I think they're going to be able to get past Vegas, because I think they're very comparable. I just think the thing that separates Colorado from Vegas, besides being comparable, is the top three for Colorado is so darn good and better, way better than the Pacioretty, Stone, Carlson, or Marchessault, whoever you like between the last two, are like that. Rantanen, Landeskog, McKinnon is so much better, so I'm going to take them. And then as well as if Gubaro can stay hot and he doesn't have to play a tough opponent the first round with St. Louis, then I think that they can pull off the series dub. So
I'm very back and forth on this, but
yes,
at the end of the day,
God, so close. 7 games.
All the signs are pointing to Vegas. I think Vegas is going to win the 7-game series because I think it's going to be a 7-game series. And a few things. Number one being, well, first I just like to point out, both of these teams have everything. Goal scoring, check. A great defense, check. I think, honestly, these are both top 3 defenses. Great blue lines. Goalies, check. Both Grubauer and Fleury are playing at an elite level. Experience. I don't think it's the Avalanche's year. I think having this experience and going to the finals with pretty much this close. I shouldn't say, I was about to say the exact same team. You have a lot of guys that went to the Cup final. I think that's going to be huge. We're looking at the Avalanche. They have a lot of youth. McKinnon and Rantanen are both under 25. Cale Makar is 22 years old. I don't necessarily trust them to play in the big games when you have these guys on Vegas that are much more experienced and have been in this position before. That's what slightly pushes them over the edge, as well as the goaltender depth. I know Robin Lehner is one of your favorite players in the league. Fleury's a Vezina candidate, we already know, but Robin Lehner is extremely underrated. People are just kind of writing him off as like, oh, because he was injured and had one bad year, he's ass. And because he's playing behind a Vezina candidate, he's ass. You mentioned Colorado does not have that luxury. It's kind of Grubauer bust unless we're expecting Devan Dubnyk to play like Jesus. But let's be honest, it's Devan Dubnyk. So having that versatility at the goaltender position as well as the experience over Colorado's youth, I think that's what is going to push Vegas over the edge and win this 7-game series. But it's going to be close.
I like how you, no, not to be a dick, but I like how you say youth. When Colorado has won at least a playoff series each of the past 3 seasons that every single player you mentioned has been a part of. So it's not like they have no experience. It's not like this is their first time going into the playoffs.
Have they been to a conference final?
No, but they ran into a buzzsaw Dallas Stars with Anton Hudobin. So in a 7-game series. And that's the only reason they didn't go to the finals last year.
Well,
So
they didn't go. They didn't go to a conference finals.
yeah, well, Vegas went to the conference finals because they had to play fucking Vancouver in the second. Vancouver. I mean, if it wasn't for Thatcher Demko, that's the easiest series of all time. Vancouver. And then they didn't. They haven't made it since 2017 or 18. So I mean,
I'm telling you, you're going to see experience.
they've won more playoff
factor.
series over the past 3 years. So
They've won one
2
more
years.
playoff series over the past 2 years.
Yeah, they've won
Yes,
more.
but they've
playoff.
gone farther. How far did they go last year? They went conference finals last year, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
and then
And then they made it to the
Colorado
cup
won
finals
more
in their first year.
their first year.
So
It's not like they have the same amount of experience. It's just not going deep in one playoff run, but going medium deep in two.
yeah, but this is the one where they're going to go deep. And so we expect yes, they're
This
technically
isn't a
winning these
conference
playoff
final.
series.
This isn't going deep. If they're losing, then they're not going deep. If you have them losing, then they're not going deep. So, according to you,
I know, but they're playing big games and high pressure minutes. So
playing in the playoffs is high pressure minutes, and when you win 2 series, that's winning.
Yes. I'm telling you, you heard it from here first. Experience is going to play a big factor in that series. But
I don't think
it's
it's.
Your final 4 is Colorado, Carolina, Toronto, and Boston. My final is Vegas, Boston, Carolina, and Toronto. So very similar. I think a lot of people also have very similar final 4s. But just quick, give us your just tell us who's going to be
So
in your finals, because we don't know what the reseeding is going to be like.
Yeah, since we already talked in depth about every team, I'm not really going to go like too far in depth, but basically the standings will go for both of us: Vegas or Colorado 1, Carolina 2, then Toronto 3, Boston 4. So the matchups are going to be Carolina versus. No, I have New York. New York's going to be. No, I have Boston. Sorry. Yeah, so it's going to be Boston, Carolina for both of us, or Toronto, Carolina for both of us, and then Boston versus Vegas for you, and Boston versus.
No, it would be Boston at the 4 seed because they were the 3 seed in the East. That's more important.
Boston at the 4 seed. Boston 4.
So it's Boston versus Carolina, and then Vegas or Colorado.
No, Carolina's the 2 seed, Gavin. It goes 1-4, 1-4, 2-3. Toronto had more points than Boston, I think. Unless Toronto somehow absolutely choked the fuck out.
I don't think they had more points then.
Here, I'm looking. Boston had 76, I thought.
Boston had 73.
Yeah, and then Toronto had like 76. So Boston had 73, you said?
Yes.
Okay, then let me get to Toronto real quick. Toronto had 77. So Toronto's the 3, Boston's the 4, Carolina's the 2, and then for both of us, either Vegas or Colorado's 1.
Yes, that's what I've been trying to say.
That's what I fucking said. Why are you arguing with me?
Because you were saying something different before.
No, I was saying Boston versus the West, and then Carolina versus Toronto.
Okay, whatever. Who's going to be in your finals?
Carolina, Colorado.
Okay, I have Carolina, Vegas. So.
Yeah, because I think we can point out major flaws in Boston, and we can point out major flaws in Toronto, where we can't really point out major flaws in either Vegas or Colorado, and then Carolina. I'm gonna go with Colorado because they have that star talent, and that's what you have to rely on.
Wow. So you have Colorado winning it all?
I have Colorado and 7 winning it all.
All right. I am sticking with Carolina. They were my pick at the beginning of April. Just watching them play, watching them really progress to the next level. I'm like, this team can compete for a cup. Now I think I'm confident in saying that they can win the Stanley Cup. I'm going with Carolina over Vegas. That would be an incredible series. I can't wait to watch that, assuming that it happens. But, because when am I ever wrong, right? So Yeah, Carolina's going to be my Cup champ. So with that, we thank you so much.
No. I have a hot take for you.
Oh, dear.
I just have a quick thing. Dark horse. None of the top 1 or 2 seeds in each division. Who do you have winning the cup besides Tampa? So, like just a dark horse.
Dark horse, Minnesota.
Dark horse, Minnesota.
Dark horse, Minnesota.
I think for me is New York. If they're able to keep their pace for the entire time, they'll be able to win the cup. So there we go. That's it. I'll let Gavin do the outro because he was going to do it originally.
Back to the outro. So yeah, I'm interested. Interesting pick with New York, but yeah, we thank you guys so much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you are new to the channel. We are on the road to 100 subscribers. Also follow our Instagram. We are trying to post more on that as well, just to get more traffic. So follow the Instagram at DebateGate Sports. We really appreciate you guys for watching. Again, we hope you find this content entertaining. Leave a like, comment down below if you will. And with that, have a good night. Hope you enjoy the playoffs. Thank you, and goodbye.